Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, Elizabeth Warren is called out to her face for lying about Joe Biden's mental decline. Hillary Clinton calls for MAGA supporters to be jailed. Democrats freak out and lose their mind over having to pay back their student loan debts. And Jasmine Crockett is exposed for making up a race-baiting story about how she became a lawyer. This is gonna be a good one. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. But before we start, I have a big favor to ask of everybody watching this video. So my fiance loves to look at the comments and read the comments on all of my videos, and I want to surprise her with something super cool. Her name is Mickey, M-I-C-K-I-E. If everybody can take a second and just drop a hi Mickey in the comments, when she reads them tonight, she is gonna lose her mind. So please do that for me. I would greatly appreciate it. But let's get into Elizabeth Warren, Miss Pocahontas herself, being called out to her face for lying about Joe Biden's mental health decline. Watch.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. And I hadn't at that point.
You did not see any decline from 2024 Joe Biden to 2021 Joe Biden?
Not when I said that. You know, the thing is, he was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise. He can speak in sentences is not praise.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Look, the question is, what are we going to do now?
Okay.
I've said it before. The reason that the Democrats are so incapable of admitting that their platform has anything wrong with it or they did anything wrong to turn off American voters is because they are all complicit, from the media to the politicians. Even as she admits that he wasn't mentally sound, she says, oh no, I didn't see any difference between 2021 and 2024 Joe Biden. And that's either because A, she's lying, or B, he was so mentally incapable that the staffers, the Obama staffers, didn't let anybody interact with this man, which should have been equally as concerning. But it's just more evidence that the Democrats are the party of corruption and lies and deception. Here's a video of Elizabeth Warren saying that before the election, the Fed should have lowered rates to artificially boost the stock market, and then comparing it with what she's saying now, saying Donald Trump trying to influence a rate decision is basically just authoritarian dictatorship stuff. Take a look.
He waited too long, and the best way you can show that you waited too long and that you get it and that you are becoming more responsive to where we are on interest rates is actually go ahead and do a nice big rate cut. Keep in mind that keeping those rates high, as he has done, keeping those interest rates so high, actually has contributed to our measure of inflation. The infrastructure that keeps this stock market strong, and therefore a big part of our economy strong, and therefore a big part of the world economy strong, is the idea that the big pieces move independent of the politics, that somebody is making her best decisions economically and independently. We understand that if the New York Stock Exchange, if interest rates in the United States are subject to a president who just wants to wave his magic wand, this doesn't distinguish us then from any other two-bit dictatorship around the world.
So these are the unscrupulous politicians who want you to believe that they're the good guys, they're the honest ones, and Donald Trump is the existential threat to democracy. Jasmine Crockett is also exposed for this kind of bogus flip-flopping, and I'll show you that clip a little later on in this video. It's perplexing to me how these people lack a shred of decency. They don't have any shame at all. Elizabeth Warren thinks that she's some sort of principled person, even though she's the same person who lied about being Native American. She's the same person, along with Bernie Sanders, who used to complain about the millionaires and the billionaires, but once they became millionaires, then it was just the bad billionaires that they had a problem with. And now, as clear as day, she was advocating for a politicized rate decrease by the Fed in order to make Joe Biden look good going into the election. But now when Donald Trump wants to influence a rate cut, it makes us no different than any other banana republic dictatorship out there. And speaking of another Democrat doing the typical Democrat projection equals confession, here's Hillary Clinton, another person who claims that Donald Trump is turning us into a banana republic dictatorship, advocating that MAGA supporters who post what she deems to be propaganda should actually go to jail.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because
if you didn't see the video I posted a few days ago, a Democrat senator named Jamie Raskin was on a podcast where he admitted whenever the Democrats regain power, they are not going to look kindly upon those who facilitated authoritarianism. It's ironic that Hillary Clinton wants to jail people for propaganda when all of the things over the last 8 to 10 years that the Democrats have claimed was propaganda later comes out to be factually correct. So not only is it just a huge infringement on our First Amendment rights, but it's them trying to silence and jail dissenting viewpoints that expose the Democrat lies and false narratives. But it's the MAGA people who are the fascists, not the Democrats who want to impose their delusional worldview on every single person, compel us to lie and engage in falsehoods, and then label us bigots and Nazis and fascists when we don't want to go along with it. And now Hillary Clinton is throwing the cherry on top, saying that if we engage in spreading propaganda, which we all know is a pseudonym for just the truth, now we should all be going to jail. But what about the Democrats that engage in spreading propaganda? Here's a video posted by a Democrat congressperson talking to one of his constituents on the phone, lying to their face, fear-mongering, and telling them that their Social Security benefits are in jeopardy.
Oh my gosh, we are running ragged over here trying to stop the madness and maybe at some point get to doing good things for people.
I pray.
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling about Social Security, and I hear you are a teacher, right?
I'm a retired teacher, a retired adjunct instructor from Houston Tulsa, and I worked for AISD for 20 years. But the Social Security is major because after you work from 12 years old in the little after-school programs that your mama put you in Houston, Texas, and someone is telling you after all these years of working that they want you to work either till you're 77 years old and maybe get something or take it from you altogether. That's ludicrous to me.
Yeah, it's just not right. It's not right.
Not.
I mean, it's supposed to be Social Security is supposed to be a sacred trust, and them coming and calling it, Elon Musk calling it a Ponzi scheme or saying that it is outrageous, and we should be just as outrageous as you are.
Now, one might define propaganda as pushing a false narrative to further a political agenda. Well, it seems like the Democrats engaging in the constant smears on Elon Musk, saying that he's coming for all of their benefits, he wants to steal it, he wants to rob their information, without a shred of evidence that that's actually true. I mean, we're 5 months into the presidency, they've been saying this stuff since day one, and we haven't had a single example of somebody's Social Security payments not being delivered. And like I said before, you don't think the mainstream media is scouring as far as they can, every source that they can, to just pick up on one example of somebody not receiving Social Security who should, so they can then point and say, haha, we told you, Doge is evil, Elon Musk is evil. But they haven't been able to do that because it's not happening. Yet they're still pushing the falsehood onto their constituents that their life is in imminent danger, that their benefits are about to be imminently stolen by Elon Musk. I wonder what Hillary would have to say about that kind of propaganda. I'm sure she would call that factually correct. So it's perfectly on brand for these Democrats to be liars, to be morally bankrupt, to be the actual propagandists and the actual fascists. But another thing that they are is extremely entitled. The Trump administration just announced that student loan payments that have been on pause since COVID, since 2021, are now about to be resumed. So people need to start paying them again. 4 years later, they had a 4-year break not having to pay these loans. And Democrats are losing their minds. Here is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt explaining this new move.
Debt cannot be wiped away. It just ends up getting transferred to others. So why should Americans who didn't go to college or went to college and responsibly paid back their loans pay for the student loans of other Americans? The Trump administration will never force taxpayers to pay student loan debts that don't belong to them. Student loan borrowers need clarity, and we're finally giving it to them. Borrowers will now be clearly expected to repay their loans, and those who default on their loan obligations will face involuntary collections. The government can and will collect defaulted federal student loan debt by withholding money from borrowers' tax refunds, federal pensions, and even their wages. America is $36 trillion in debt. We must get our fiscal house in order and restore common sense to our country. If you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. It's very simple.
So let me get this right. The people who claim that they're so intellectually superior to us, they got all of these college degrees. They're the sophisticated ones. They're the educated ones. They're the intelligent ones, are now complaining that they have to pay back the loan that they got to get this all-powerful education that makes them so superior. Well, if that education was so superior, then why are you struggling to pay back your student loans? If college was so worth it and has made you so capable, so sophisticated, such an asset to the market and the economy, why can't you get a good job that allows you to pay back your loans? Why are you working as a barista for $30,000 after you went to 4 years of college? Oh wait, because your piece of paper doesn't mean anything. It's a useless credential. That sociology degree or that women's studies or gender studies degree doesn't actually yield any tangible benefit in the market, nor does it make you a more enlightened, critically thinking person. All you did was brainwash yourself with useless academic theories that have no application or relevance in the real world, and then come out the other end claiming you're better than everybody else simply because you have this giant student loan bill that you have to pay. So you have to justify to yourself that it was worth something. It had to be worth it. Otherwise, why are you $30,000 in debt? But now reality is hitting these people. They have to pay this loan back, and they don't have a good job from this degree to afford them the opportunity to do so. And now they want everybody who didn't go to college and choose to be brainwashed to pay off the loan for them. Well, what about the parents who sacrificed, didn't go on that vacation, skipped out on instant gratification that they could have had so they could save money to pay for their child's education? Or the people who did take out student loans and responsibly paid them back because they got a meaningful degree? And the reality is, most of the student loan debt is held by people who have master's degrees and PhDs. So yeah, there's a significant amount of student debt that's held by the useless majors such as art degrees and gender studies, but really what they're advocating for here is the working man to pay for the degrees of doctors and lawyers and people with advanced degrees who get paid above average incomes. Listen to this libtard on X who posted a video explaining why it's so unfair that she has to pay back her student loans.
This comment section is getting absolutely flooded with comments like this, like, you got a student loan, just pay it fucking back. Most people signed up for these loans when they were 18 years old. They did not understand the impacts it was going to have on their life, how expensive college was going to be, how much debt they were going to get into, and now they are starting off life with $50,000, $100,000 in debt. And it is so hard to get a job right now with a degree, and when you even get that job, it pays you hardly anything. It is not enough to even survive on, much less pay rent. How the fuck are you supposed to pay a loan back? That big. This is an exploitative system that targets 18-year-olds that don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. And then they become adults and they are riddled with debt in a mound of, like, in just such a big hole they can't fucking crawl out of. We're just celebrating other people's poverty? Is that what we're doing?
Let me get this right. Let me make sure I understand the point she's trying to make here. An 18-year-old is not fully developed enough to make a rational, responsible decision about getting a loan to go to college. But aren't these the same people who swear that a 6-year-old child should be able to start their transition journey because they're so aware of who they are and what's going on? This is who they are, and they know that without a shred of doubt. And they're willing to sacrifice their entire future, the ability to have kids, the ability to have a happy, normal, mentally stable life. A 6-year-old can make this decision. But now, all of a sudden, an 18-year-old isn't mentally capable enough of signing up for a loan to go to college. Both things can't be true at the same time, but it's very typical for Democrats to contradict themselves with every single word that they say. But I'm sure if you told them, okay, well, if you're not capable of taking out a loan, then you probably shouldn't be voting in national elections either, and they would probably throw a massive fit about that. But the real problem is so many people like this girl think that it doesn't matter what they study, what they actually take away from college, what they learn, what skills they develop. They think the value of college is just the diploma itself, not what you're supposed to be gaining from it. And so they pick some useless major, something they think is quirky and fun, and then they're so surprised when they come out the other end and no serious company looks at your gender studies degree and thinks that you would be a valuable asset to their company. And the nose ring basically gave it away. She's definitely a gender studies major, so totally makes sense why she can't pay off her student loan debt. I always reference this stat. 40% of people who go to college drop out, and out of the ones who do graduate, 50% will never get a job that required a degree in the first place. Talk about a stupid decision. But hey, they're the educated ones. They're the sophisticated ones. They're the intelligent ones. What do we know? We're just dumb, stupid MAGAs. But now they want all the dumb, stupid MAGAs to pay for their worthless degrees. Okay, make it make sense. Now, the last thing I'm gonna show you in this video is ghetto Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has been exposed for making up her story about how she became a lawyer. They played 2 clips, one from 2019 and one from 2025, and her reasoning for becoming a lawyer is completely different. She's such a grifter. Take a look.
I had a great background as it relates to my ability to deal with numbers, and it was going to pay well. So I was like, I'll be an accountant. Unfortunately, around my junior year, I was the victim of a hate crime or two. And so were a group of my friends, all at the same time. Cars were keyed with the N-word. We received hate mail in our on-campus mailboxes. And at that time, my school hired the Cochran firm. And there was a lawyer who graduated from University of Houston who was assigned to me. And it was the first time in my life that I felt helpless. And I was like, I want to help people that are going through what I've just experienced. And at that point in time, I decided that I was going to sit for the LSAT. I did Little Shop of Horrors. So when I was in college at Rhodes in Memphis, I ended up doing Little Shop of Horrors.
What part did you play in that?
I was one of the women that was singing.
Okay.
Yes, I was in the chorus.
Okay.
And so I ended up doing it, and the mock trial coach recruited me to do mock trial. And I was like, no. By this time, I decided I was going to be an accountant. Didn't want to do anesthesia no more. Still didn't want to talk to people. So then he goes, no, you should do mock trial. And I said, that's for the kids going to law school. Long story short, he recruits me. I do mock trial just my senior year. I become a national All-American. He says, you should go to law school. So I applied, got a full ride, and said, fine, if I don't like it, I'll quit.
They're calling her Jasmine Smollett after Jesse Smollett, who made up the racist hate crime attack that he went through. And now Jasmine Crockett is making up the same story. Oh, I went through this hate crime and it just inspired me to be a lawyer. But then she says, oh, I was acting in a play and then got invited to a mock trial and that's how I became a lawyer. The stories aren't consistent because these people are habitual liars. And it's bad enough that they're habitual liars, but it's even worse that we live in the internet age, where it's so easy for some random person on the internet to scour up a clip of them saying the complete opposite thing just a few years prior. Same with Elizabeth Warren and her take on interest rates. And that's why nobody trusts the Democrats. You've got Kamala Harris, who went from being the most progressive Democrat candidate to all of a sudden becoming some staunch moderate, and couldn't explain in the slightest bit why her positions just did total 180s out of nowhere. I'm loving seeing the meltdown of the Democrat Party happen day after day in real time. And in earlier videos, I was saying, I really hope that the Democrat Party gets back to some sort of sense of normalcy because it would be good for America. But now after Jamie Raskin and Hillary Clinton making public threats that they want to jail Republicans, I'm of the belief that we need to keep these people as far away from power as possible so they can not wreck the country any more than they already did. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.